Are we alone? The MOD has released details of staff sighting alien craft in London. Files detailing hundreds of sightings of unexplained objects in the skies above Britain have been opened to the public for the first time. Have you ever seen one? Have you ever been beamed aboard? Is there anyone out there? Or are we alone?
I do, yeah. It's quite unexplained really, isn't it? But yeah, I don't think there must be something else besides this place. Hopefully, yes. Absolutely.
I believe in there's possibilities for everything. I'm very open-minded. I'm not saying I've ever seen anything, but it's a big universe, isn't it? I wouldn't like to think that I was so egotistical that I thought I was the only thing, you know, human beings were the only things that were living, if you like.
What do you reckon? One of the world's most respected authorities on alien phenomenon and the author of many books on the subject, including Need to Know, UFO'S, the Military and Intelligence, is Timothy Good. He's with us now. Hello, Tim.
Hi.
Now then, give us your, if you can, in a nutshell, your assessment of this whole notion. Where do you stand here?
Well, regarding the files, first of all, it's not the first time the Ministry of Defence has released files on UFOs. I mean, that's been going on for a long time, but this is a new process in that over a period of 3 years they're going to release about 150 to 160 files. It takes them that long time to sort of deal with them, you know, to censor them where necessary and everything. And some of them do indeed make fascinating reading. I mean, it varies. There's several thousand pages in this present batch which you can get online. It deals with sort of sightings from members of the public, from UFO researchers like myself. I was astonished to see lengthy reports. One lengthy report from me, which I handed to the Ministry of Defence. That's been classified all these years, despite the fact I published it in my first book 21 years ago. So I find that amusing. There's also a correspondence between the Yorkshire UFO Society. A lot of that, one of the country's leading UFO research organisations based in Leeds. You probably remember Graham and Mark Birdsall, who ran that. And dear Graham, who sadly died a few years ago, they did sterling work in the Yorkshire area and the rest of the country at that time. So there is some fascinating material, sightings by police officers, pilots, and so on and so forth. But what is slightly disappointing, though not unexpected from my point of view, is that there's nothing secret or previously secret or top secret, or even higher restriction than that in these files. So we're not getting the real thing. That's the nub of it, really.
So do you think that there is more to this, as one of our texters said earlier, that because they're releasing this suggests that this is only the tip of the iceberg?
It is indeed the tip of the iceberg. That's absolutely correct. The most sensitive stuff is still being withheld in the interest of national security. I mean, as far back as 1950, we know there's a top-secret Canadian government document reproduced in my latest book, Need to Know, which it says back in 1950 that the subject is more highly classified than the hydrogen bomb. It's the most sensitive subject within the United States government, and that is the same still today. So a lot of the stuff is restricted to military and scientific intelligence, those relatively few people who have sufficiently high security clearances.
But you see, Tim, I think I'm like a lot of people. I really, really want to believe in this, but at the end of the day, I have to conclude it's a conspiracy theory.
It's a conspiracy theory with a difference, because a lot of the conspiracy is provable in government documents themselves, saying, you know, that these facts should be kept down, play down the subject, and so on and so forth. I've detailed many cases like that where the authorities have said, you know, that we simply got to play this down. And there's a lot of evidence. There's a tremendous amount of good photographic evidence. Thousands of documents, government documents from many countries around the world show how seriously it's taken behind the scenes.
But why have they not made contact then?
Well, I think probably that it would not be in our best interests, and it would not be in their interest. It appears that there's several different types of aliens, not all of whom are friendly. Some of them might not want us to know what they're doing here, and that's a problem.
So they have made contact. They've made contact
with
whom?
They've made contact with thousands of people throughout the world, people from all walks of life, including government officials. And that information is what is the most highly classified, but a few people have come out with it. One such person was the late Air Marshal Sir Peter Horsley, who was Deputy Chief of Strike Command. He worked for the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh at Buckingham Palace for 7 years. He was a decorated war hero. And in 1954, he claimed to have had a 2-hour meeting with an extraterrestrial human-appearing being in the middle of London, and he learned a great deal from that. And he told me it was all very, very disturbing because, first of all, this guy could read Sir Peter's mind, and secondly, this man, wherever he was from, he didn't say, but he implied that he was an extraterrestrial. This man knew all Britain's top-secret nuclear secrets. So that's one case of a brave, respected authority who had his hand on the nuclear trigger at one point, who came forward towards the end of his life in his autobiography, and then I got a little bit more information from him.
Tim, let me read you this text. See if you think this is typical or atypical. It's from DML, is the texter. Hi, in the late 70s, an old friend of mine was travelling home late one night on the M1. Suddenly there was a brilliant white light that enveloped the car. All the electrics failed, the motor stopped. It got very hot. Then suddenly it went, the lights came on, she started the car, she went to the police station at Wakefield, they examined the car, all the paint was scorched and bubbled. She made a statement and was visited by some officials from London who were extremely nasty to her. It did make the local and national newspapers, and she still lives in the Wakefield area.
I can believe that story. I think I may have heard it before, but I've heard others very similar. I can say, without doubt, in my opinion, that sounds absolutely the real thing to me.
So what should we do, Tim? What should we be doing? Should we be afraid? Should we be hopeful? Should we be trying to find out more?
I think, obviously, the public does not have a need to know what's going on. Sometimes not even all presidents get to find out what's going on, I can tell you that. But I think we need to study and find out as much as possible, the better to face the future, because eventually they're going to have to, they cannot sit on this forever. There's no way they can do that, and events might overtake the authorities. I mean, all sorts of things could be happening. I'm thinking of last year, about 13 months ago, 2 airline pilots flying in the Channel Islands independently reported a mile-long UFO, which, according to the Ministry of Defence, was a primary radar contact. That means a very solid contact. So it wasn't just a lenticular cloud, those long sausage-shaped clouds you see sometimes. It wasn't a flock of seagulls or anything. This was a very large target, and two craft seen by 2 different small airliners. And there was another case in Stephenville in Texas this year when people on the ground saw at low level an enormous mile-wide craft of some sort. And there were very qualified witnesses as well. Some of the
will have a defence system against UFOs. Do you think that there is one?
It's a very good question. Now, as I've explained in my book, Need to Know UFOs, the Military and Intelligence, towards the end, there's no question that very advanced types of weaponry have been developed over the decades. And this weaponry is related to alien technology itself, which the Americans have certainly acquired as a result of capturing a number of extraterrestrial spacecraft. I know it sounds wild, but that is what I have been told by very, very reliable sources. And the former Defense Minister of Canada, Paul Hellyer, is absolutely convinced, based on his conversation with United States Air Force General, that this is the case, and there is a conflict situation with some of these beings, and it's led to the development by the Americans of very advanced forms of weaponry and very advanced forms of aircraft and spacecraft, apparently, which are capable of performance beyond most of our currently seen aircraft and spacecraft.
Tim, brilliant to speak to you this lunchtime. Absolutely fascinating stuff. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's a great pleasure.
And we'll no doubt hear more and more about this as time goes on. Let me know your views on this one. What do you reckon? Are we alone out there?